I continue to keep listening to radio hosts who piss me off in order to know my enemy. This guy, John Kobylt, has said bad things about Elliot Rodger, and now he's pissed off that Apple are refusing to unlock the phone of San Bernardino terrorists for the FBI.
AM 640.
All right, well, we're just talking to San Bernardino County DA Mike Ramos about the efforts to get Apple to cooperate with the FBI in getting inside one of the terrorist cell phones, Syed Farouk, and the San Bernardino attacks from back in December. He mentioned the DA of New York. The Manhattan District Attorney is Cyrus Vance, and he's saying that he's got 175 iPhones that they can't open because of encryption. He's saying that, you got the power of the federal government and the FBI working on the terrorism investigation out in San Bernardino, that iPhone, but there are many investigations that have been stopped short because when Apple made its decision in the late fall of 2014 to lock their devices, he said this is going to have an impact on investigations all around the country. And he's got 175 of them, homicide cases, attempted murder, sex abuse cases.
Apple created a device, a tool, for criminals to get away with major crimes and cover their evidence.
Yeah,
that's shocking. That is shocking that's what Apple created, and they're standing by it. They're standing by, look what we invented. Something that criminals could use to commit crimes and hide their evidence forever.
He said it shouldn't be up to Apple whether or not to cooperate with law enforcement. We've now got the Wild West of technology where Apple and Google are the sheriffs, and they're making the rules.
What a fucking asshole. This retard now attacks private companies for making tools that let people get away with crimes. This makes no fucking sense. Under this logic, if a criminal wears gloves during a crime not to leave behind fingerprints, it is the glove company's fault. So, should they not make gloves? Should they invent some kind of new type of glove that will project the fingerprints through the material so it's easier for poor law enforcement to bust bad guys? This fucker goes on about stuff that makes no sense. Basically, if someone murders somebody with a hammer, according to him, it would be the fault of the company that made the hammer. Why did they build a tool that can be used to murder a person? Why aren't they making sure the people aren't buying hammers to bash someone's brains in?
Apple and Google now supersedes all U.S. law, all state law, local law, Congress, the president, the legislature, the Congress. We're now subservient to what Apple feels is appropriate. Whoa, that's unbelievable. It's now up to Apple what crimes will be solved. It's up.
So the only answer is for them to do something in Congress. They have to write legislation to deal with this because it's a new animal.
Unfortunately, congressmen are very susceptible to fat checks, and the fattest checks out there are from technology companies. Apple's sitting on $1 billion in cash. They got plenty of money to send to politicians, and then all this stuff gets stalled. I can't believe Apple now supersedes all of law enforcement.
I'd rather have Google and Apple supersede those people, because unlike Congress and the FBI, they don't give a shit what I do. Look, they talk about the Wild West of technology. What about all those people that get busted by cell phone cameras for fighting or abusing their pets or whatever? Something that shouldn't be happening, that just because there are video cameras everywhere doesn't mean I shouldn't be able
to play this game like fucking pussies. Nothing I can do, baby.
my fucking god, what a fucking wrong. Able to get away with things the same as I would in 1950s. How is this Wild West? I think technology has made it very much the opposite.
We're now subservient to what Apple feels is appropriate?
And subservient to Apple. What a fucking idiot. Unlike the FBI, Apple isn't going to give a shit if you break the law. So yeah, I'd rather be subservient to Apple. Apple can't arrest me and throw me in prison, unlike the fucking police.
Who are these guys? Who the hell is Tim Cook? Like, you know, the thing is, we have a culture that worships technology now. And so the guy who oversees the manufacturing of a cell phone has higher authority than anybody else in America. Oh, let's slow down here. These are little mini computers. That's all they are.
So does this give people who like to trade in child porn carte blanche to just put it all on that iPhone because they're not going to get in there to grab that evidence?
Exactly. The guy who you know.
Thank God the iPhone's small, though. It's probably not as appealing to put porn on your. Well,
trade in child porn. Again, these idiots don't realize that what if they were born with a brain wiring that made them attracted to children? Would they still be talking this way?
Phone is like in your home computer.
The guy who takes photos of the women he kills in a serial killing spree.
Yeah,
the location information of bad guys.
This fucking asshole wants location information. Why can't we live like it's 1980 and pretend there is no location information? You see how fucking spoiled victims are? This is why I have no pity for victims. Because no matter what they get security cameras, they get cell phone cameras, they get all kinds of forensic science shit that's constantly expanding and improving. And they still bitch and complain that it's never good enough. Maybe it's not good enough because something you want isn't rational and it simply doesn't work. You made a law against murder. What more do these fucking victims want? So you have a law against murder and you still get murdered. Well, why don't you just accept that that's just life then?
As they go on their crime sprees? I can't fathom this.
There's got to be like some kind of compromise, some way they can figure this out.
Why is a phone...
So that the police and FBI can get the evidence and the Apple won't feel like the whole privacy thing's falling apart. It's got to be.
First of all, nobody has an absolute right to privacy. The Fourth Amendment allows the federal government to search anything we own, anywhere, if they have probable cause.
This is so funny. You went on fire. These fucking victims put up security cameras, they have DNA testing, they want to track location data of criminals just because the cell phone was invented to make it possible to do so. You have tech companies invent cell phones with features that make it easier to catch bad guys, that allow you to take videos that can ruin lives of people like me, where I have to watch a lot closely what I do in public than I should have to, because I fully feel entitled to the camera-free privacy levels of the 1960s, when this technology didn't exist. And now they're still sitting here bitching about how the technology companies that enabled all this Orwellian shit that they want, they're now the bad guys. For what reason? For trying to take privacy back to 1980s level so we can enjoy having phones, but 1980s level privacy of using those phones? What a bunch of childish motherfuckers. Men that are decades older than me, that experienced the privacy levels of 1980s, now sitting here bitching that it's a terrific injustice that FBI can't track some device that's only been around for 10 years. This is why you don't feel sorry for any fucking victims. Don't feel sorry for serial killer victims or mass murder victims, because it's never gonna be enough for them. They'll bitch and complain until the end of time, no matter what concessions you give them.
That there was a crime.
Right, and that
involved.
might be evidence involved.
Okay, so everyone's home can be searched by the government, everyone's office, everyone's file cabinet, every drawer. You've seen what happens when the FBI breaks into a house. They pull out every drawer, they tear down walls, they look for secret hiding places and safes and false walls, and they destroy your house, or they destroy an office, and they cart off boxes of documents, they cart off hard drives. And they do that every day. Every day, some private area is getting busted into because there's proof of a crime.
Yeah, it's just the phone is a different animal.
So, yeah, it's a different animal, but it's the same concept. It's a filing cabinet.
What a fucking idiot. So he wants his life controlled by people who will break into his house and tear everything apart and take all his documents instead of a private corporation that doesn't give a fuck. Think, what if you're born a poor loser like me? You get sick and tired of making 3 cents on YouTube every day. You suffer because you want to have more money, but your body is too weak to work, so you decide to create a Ponzi scheme like Bernie Madoff. So then FBI gets a fucking warrant and tears your fucking life apart. You were born to suffer, you lived in a rat-infested trailer, you got sick and tired of making only 3 cents on YouTube every day, so you decided, fuck it, I'll run a Ponzi scheme, or sell drugs, or just rip the purse of some old bitch on the street. And now you got to suffer in prison? Why does it have to be so the only direction for a person like me is down, down, down because of fucking law enforcement?
It's a record of where you've been, who you've talked to, photos you've taken. It's a little device that holds evidence for bad guys. And now we've decided that the police don't get a say, the district attorney doesn't get a say, the FBI doesn't get a say. Congress, the president, local state legislature, the governor, anybody who writes laws, they don't get a say. Only Tim Cook at Apple, he gets a say as to whether the evidence is going to be released. Well, that's nuts.
They keep comparing a cell phone to a file cabinet. Well, okay, let's put a file cabinet on the market that if someone inserts the wrong key or tries to brute force open the file cabinet, a small flamethrower activates inside that burns all the papers. Would these John and Ken pieces of shit then try to make that product illegal because it burned all the papers that incriminated the bad guys when the police tried to get inside? See what pieces of shit people are? You should have no right, no power at all to circumvent police in any way, according to them. Police should have the last say in how anything is done. You know, let's make any ingenuity against the police illegal. Let's have the police decide how you are allowed and not allowed to treat your personal property, all because some vile, capricious, childish victims got shot up in a terrorist attack. Let's have the police hold all the cards. Those victims already had laws against murder made for them, so the laws didn't work. Well, what do these fucking corpses want now? They want George Orwell's fantasy stories to come true? Yeah, see, with these people, there are always never enough laws to protect victims. There's always not enough technology to protect victims. Why can't people use ingenuity like encryption to circumvent laws? You got your fucking laws. How is this fair? You have to think up technology and software and everything to circumvent laws. Meanwhile, people who want to be protected by laws simply get to ask for a law, it gets signed, and boom, the good guys get what they want. And people like me have to fight an uphill battle while the victims get to change the rules as they please. Can you imagine playing a game where one team gets to change the rules as they please to suit them? They just get to rewrite the rules of the game, while you are forced to constantly adapt your strategy to the ever-changing rules. It makes life hell. Yet the victims are that team. They get to write whatever rules they want, while the rest of us, to combat their bullshit, we have to come up with strategies. We have to cover up our faces to avoid their stupid cameras. We have to make sure we don't shed a piece of hair at a crime scene so our DNA doesn't connect us to it, while they just get to lay back and rewrite fucking rules and hog all the assets. Imagine playing Call of Duty, where only the opposite team gets to have a UAV, where the opposite team dictates how many bullets your gun gets to have, where the opposite team dictates whether you even get to use a gun against them, where you might have to resort to using wrenches and crowbars and knives and whatever stupid shit Vonderhaar puts into supply drops, because they get to have guns, but forbid you from using guns. Why would you take that side? Now let's say this opposite team are also a bunch of MLG pros, and you're fucking noobs.
That's just completely, absolutely nuts. He ends up with more dictatorial power than anybody else in the nation.
All right, we're at 1-800-520-1534.
On crimes, no less. On terrorism. Jeez.
Yes, Tim Cook has dictatorial power. Tim Cook is going to send stormtroopers to arrest me if I break the law. Yes, I'd much rather have the FBI tell me what to do instead. The FBI aren't mean at all.
I mean, seriously, somebody ought to release photos of all the victims at San Bernardino, all the dead bodies, all the injured. You know, there's a photo that the police took of what it looked like in that meeting room where everybody was shot dead. Let's put up that photo and ask Tim Cook, how come we can't get any evidence to help out to explain what happened here? Where's your moral standing? Why? Because you're a tech executive? Shh.
Yeah. Release the photos of dead bodies. Like I will care. I've looked at dead body pictures on the internet ever since I was a teenager. Seeing people like myself suffer inside an isolation cell in prisons has an effect of outrage on me. Seeing pictures of a bunch of dead, ugly, fat people in San Bernardino will not. Let's put John Kobylt in a prison cell for a day, so he'll stop wishing that shit on people like me.
By AM 640. Just one more thing about this Tim Cook deciding that he's now the supreme law enforcement official in the land, and he's not going to allow Apple to help out the police with the terrorist phone. One day, unfortunately, someone listening, hopefully it's not you, somebody out there is going to be the victim of a crime. Might be a terrible crime. Might be somebody in your family who's killed or injured, sexually assaulted. Maybe your child is kidnapped. Maybe something terrible happens. Awful tragedy. And the police need the bad guy's phone to get evidence. Because maybe in that phone is evidence that would prove that he was at a particular location committing the act. And you can't get that information because Tim Cook says no. So there's no trial. So the bad guy who attacked your family member doesn't go to trial. He lives for another day to rape somebody else. Because remember, what they're looking for is location information in the phone. Now, a lot of times bad guys try to concoct alibis. Well, I wasn't there that day. You know, I was over my mother's house. I wasn't there. And then you look in the phone, and the phone will tell you, looks like you were there that day. Looks like you were exactly at the address where the sexual assault took place. The rape, the murder. Can't get that information because Tim Cook, of all people, says no. Judge says to Tim Cook, no, got to release the information. We know who raped this woman. Sorry. Not giving it out. All right, so why are we having a presidential campaign? Why are we voting? Why don't we just just appeal to Tim Cook here? Apparently he's in charge now. He's in charge of collecting evidence for all crimes. It's because I'm sorry, that phone is nothing magical. It's an electronic file cabinet is all it is. And if you can go into somebody's house and grab their private notes, their private photos, their private mail, their private conversations. I mean, we can wiretap people on the phone, right? So we can wiretap people and record their conversations, but we can't use their phone to see where they've been wandering.
Why should the police be entitled to use the cell phone to catch the bad guy? Why can't we pretend it's 1970 and there is no fucking cell phone? Just accept that. If this fucker was alive in 1970 right now, he'd have to accept that you can't track the bad guy. There is no cell phone. There are no cameras. If your child got abducted, that's tough shit. That's life. People accepted that back then. So pretend it's still like that. What a spoiled prick John Kobylt is. He can't just accept shit and pretend it's like 1980 and there is no phone at all. I'm sure when he was alive in 1980, he accepted the world for what it was. So why can't he do it now? So if John Kobylt happened to marry the wrong woman, and now, like O.J. Simpson, he ends up killing her in rage because of bad brain wiring, does he really want to go to prison for that and sit inside a sensory deprivation cell because his phone betrayed him, or some asshole neighbor's security camera betrayed him? Why can't this guy put himself in another person's shoes? Put himself in the shoes of this Skylar Attilano kid. Well, you can grab my file cabinet, but if I rig it up so the file cabinet bursts into flame and burns all the evidence inside it, when the police grab it, how is it any different from a phone? doing a digital equivalent of that same thing. See, here I expect society to get behind the idea that security cameras and cell phone cameras should not be used as evidence. So we have the outdoor public privacy of the 1950s. And how am I going to achieve that when the public opinion is like this?